Colby Covington sucks. His recent performance at UFC 296 was an absolute embarrassment to the sport, and I'm here to break it down, and I will later get to how I think he matches up with the top 10 of the welterweight division. After seeing that performance, I don't think he does too well. All right, let's talk about the performance against Leon Edwards. I genuinely think this was one of the worst title performances we have seen in quite some time, and it is just a joke that this guy got a title shot. No one said that he deserves it. I understand we don't want to see Belal Muhammad fight for a title, but there's other alternatives than to just force Colby Covington into a title shot off a 2-year layoff, and he looked so bad in there. Honestly, he looked so washed, and not only that, he talked so much shit. I'm a guy that, didn't really love Colby Covington going into this build-up, but I've loved him in the past. If I'm being entirely honest with you guys, he got me into the sport as a hardcore fan. When I was first tuning into the UFC, I saw some clips of Colby Covington trash-talking Kamaru Usman leading up to their second fight, and that really made me a real hardcore fan of the sport, and I was really, really into that fight. So thank you, Colby Covington, for getting me into the sport, but outside of that, I really don't like you right now, bro. Honestly. That whole build-up where you talk all that crap about Leon Edwards' dad, and I understand you're Colby Covington, that's your character, you're going to say out-of-pocket crap like that, but he's also doing that, putting on the show, putting on a red coat, or a blue coat, whatever it is, doing all this extra stuff, doing everything he can to get every little pay-per-view, trying to get in Leon Edwards' head, standing on it at the weigh-in face-offs. He's telling him, you thought I was a character. And then all of that, bringing Trump in, saying all of this, that, the other, to have one of the most cowardly performances inside the octagon I have seen in quite some time. That was a title fight, ladies and gentlemen. That was so sloppy. Colby Covington looked like a joke. He looked so slow. He looked so old. And it's going to be hard for me to want to pick him against any of the top fighters. If I'm being entirely honest, I feel like a dumbass. I picked Colby Covington. And I'll break it down. I thought it was a 50-50 matchup, and when it's a 50-50 matchup, I go for the underdog, and in this matchup, I picked Colby Covington because I thought that he had better takedown entries than Kamaru Usman, and Kamaru Usman looked like he lost a step in the third fight. Maybe not that much of a step, and I do think Kamaru Usman would beat Colby if they fought now, but I wasn't expecting Colby to drop off and look like he's decaying inside that octagon, and he did. I thought he would be able to find a couple entries off the single legs when Leon would throw the leg kick, but he had no answer for it. And from the get-go, I'll tell you this right now, from the first minute when I saw Leon pressuring him back and he did not shoot a takedown, I flipped my pick to Leon very freaking confidently. I knew Leon was going to win that fight. It went from a 50-50 matchup, I think Colby's going to win because he's going to go out there and rob him, shoot takedowns nonstop, and it was going to be hard for Leon to get Colby off of him to, okay, yeah, this fight's over. I'm giving Leon like a 70% chance to win this fight just based off the fact he was able to pressure Colby from the get-go, and Colby has not shot a takedown yet. It took him like 3 to 4 minutes to even shoot a takedown, and it was a sorry takedown entry once he shot it, and if I remember correctly, he didn't shoot a takedown in the whole entire second round. He was just letting his leg get chewed up. He was literally having the worst possible game plan you can against Leon Edwards, which is staying at his range, playing the leg kick game, and just letting your leg get chewed up, dealing with the long, rangy frame of Leon Edwards in a striking fight. I don't understand it. He didn't push a pace on the feet either. He just froze. He froze. He was frozen like Elsa, apparently. I don't know if Donald Trump got to him, but that is just so crazy to me that you can talk all that much shit. You can say all this much shit about how Leon Edwards is dad. You bring that into it. You bring Donald Trump into it. You bring all this fucking political shit. You talk all the shit on everyone else throughout the fight week, and you do nothing but freeze up in there. Dude, you don't have to play the character at this point. I get it. You want the payday, but show up in there for your damn self, bro. And your coaches are a joke too. I'll get to that in just one second. But the fact that you won this fight is crazy. I don't understand how you can possibly think that. I don't understand how your coaches were not telling you, you need to finish going into the 5th round. You know what they said after the 4th round when you're, on the stool, getting prepared for the 5th round? They're like, Cole, you need to do a little bit more, okay? He's the champion. You need to remember that. No, you tell him to get a damn finish. They're a bunch of yes men. I saw Colby when it was in the Masvidal fight and the second Usman fight talking about nonstop how he loved his coaches. And every single time I hear them in the corner, I think, are these guys fucking retarded? They are, dude, honestly. It's a joke. It really is a joke. And the reason why I'm ranting, the reason why I'm so mad is because that was the pay-per-view we had to go out on this year. I would generally rather see Belal Muhammad versus Leon Edwards because Belal Muhammad, although he's ugly, although he's had very boring fights with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, he'll go out there like a man and he will implement a game plan. That makes sense. He's not dumb. At least Belal Muhammad watches fights. He watches tapes. And he's not going to delusionally go out there and just expect himself to get the decision just by staring at the opponent. Like, come on, bro. That was so sorry. I can't explain it. I can't explain what just happened. Leon Edwards did not look that good either, and he should have gone for the finish on Colby Covington. And I think Leon is a good fighter, but that was not a good performance from him either. That version of Colby Covington, that washed, decaying old sack of flab in there should be getting finished by any of the top 5 freaking welterweights on the roster. Honestly, Colby was passive. He was just scared to really get anything going. Leon was definitely the more quick fighter, and he was outpointing him at every single angle. Colby had no response to the leg kicks, which is not what I expected, and he just did not have the balls to shoot takedowns. I don't know if he was scared of the knee. I don't know if he was scared of how quick Leon Edwards was. I don't know if his cardio just all of a sudden dropped off, but he looked so sloppy. I was watching with my friends, and some of them are casual fans, and some of the strikes that Colby Covington was throwing, that leg kick from way out of range, that teep just straight up the middle, they would just laugh when he's throwing strikes, and they have every right to. It was such a joke of a performance. You talked all that much crap to go out there and do that. Not even try to win the fight. He was more impacted by the quote he said about Leon's dad than Leon was. He went out there like, oh man, he probably apologized. I don't even know what Colby Covington's doing right now. If we're being honest, he's probably sitting at some poker table, gambling away all his life savings, trying to cope with the fact that he's a joke. I couldn't live with, how can you live with yourself after a performance like that? And then not only that, he calls out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson because he knows that's the only fight in the division that he has a decent chance at. After calling Wonderboy a pedo, like what is up with all these antics? Why are you calling Wonderboy a pedo? Why are you hitting on Tony Ferg? What's all this shit? I don't get that. Yeah, I'll be the first guy to say Colby Covington used to be my favorite fighter. Now, that was when I was an immature MMA fan, and I thought trash talk was hilarious. I thought the whole Kamaru Usman, whatever beef was super fun, and that was when I literally didn't know the whole roster. Obviously, so give me some slack here, but he got me into the sport. His rivalry with Kamaru Usman made me think, this guy's got such a fun style. He's going to go out there and stand and bang, and then I kind of like knew more about MMA, and the more and more you learn, for me at least, I just became less of a fan. I realized this guy's main game plan is to nut hug someone, and he goes out there and he talks like he's freaking Alex Pereira, when in reality, he likes to sniff nuts and win a decision. That's what he likes to do. He's got a great pace, and I thought he was going to go out there shooting nonstop takedowns. It was going to be very hard for Leon to separate and do damage on the feet. That's exactly what I thought would happen, and Colby was going to be throwing nonstop pressure on the feet, just making it really hard for Leon Edwards. Like a prime Covington with a perfect game plan is really not a bad pick at all against Leon Edwards. But after seeing that, after seeing how much quicker Leon Edwards was than Colby Covington, how ahead of him he was, I just can't believe I considered picking Colby Covington. I'm sorry, when it comes to that, I'll just factor more into 2-year layoffs, whatever it would be. The fact that Colby was third, I can't believe I picked Colby Covington in hindsight. Typically, I'm very good at not jumping the gun on the guy that's returning when it came to ring rust, but we've seen Colby Covington do it before against Kamaru Usman. In my opinion, he won rounds 3, 4, and 5, and that should have been a draw in my opinion. I'll stand on that, but it was a very close fight. I just cannot believe what I witnessed. So, I mean, yeah, I guess all I can say is sorry about that, guys. My picks will be better. I'm going to be locked in. I mean, there's not fights for like the next month or so, so I'm going to have a little bit more creative content. But yeah, I mean, I just want to milk the fact that Colby Covington is a joke. Trump is probably embarrassed that he backed this guy. And what was so funny about this is some of the casual fans were like, it's Colby Covington. He's never in boring fights. Have you seen his fights with Kamaru Usman? I was sitting there at my friend's house. We're literally watching, and one of the guys says, they were watching the Pantoja Royval fight. They're like, well, the main event can't be boring. It's Colby Covington. And I'm thinking, do you guys know Colby Covington? Like, outside of the Kamaru Usman fights, Colby Covington is there to make it a boring fight and win by decision. And that's who he is, respectfully. And he has had some very fun fights on the feet. And I miss that version of Colby Covington. But you just can't be a fan of him, in my opinion. I don't know how. Okay, this is what I was looking at. After the fight, he still had 1 million followers. I was expecting him to lose at least 100,000 after everything he did through fight week and showing up like that in the main event. I don't care if he talks crap. I care if you find him funny. All the antics are so corny, so cringe, when you can't even show up and throw a fucking strike. I can't stand his coaches. I can't. The adjustments they're saying, all right, Colby. Now, they're trying to give him like a technical adjustment game plan on the feet. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you saying? I need you to lock the fuck in and yell at this fucker and tell him he's being a pussy right now. And you need to tell him to shoot more takedowns, throw more strikes, and get Leon down to the ground. And if he can't, you're turning into Marab, you're staying on his legs, you're going to chain takedowns together, and that's where you have the advantage over Kamaru Usman. You're literally fighting the worst possible fight you can potentially fight. I'm done talking about the fight. Let's talk about Colby Covington's next fight, what I think the UFC will want him to do, and I'm going to be predicting him against the top 10 of the welterweight division. Okay? Starting out with Leon Edwards. He loses to Leon Edwards. That is a horrible matchup for him, saying he's not really capable of getting him down and not really capable of getting over the mental hump of wanting to go out there and shoot takedowns and wanting to close the distance and wanting to make it a tough fight for Leon Edwards and wanting to actually win the fight. He just wants to not get finished and not want to get embarrassed. That's honestly what Colby Covington is at this point in his career. Let's talk about with Kamaru Usman, a third fight. I'm going with Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman has looked like he's lost a step, but I don't think he's lost that much of a step. Against Khamzat Chimaev on short notice, like a week's notice, he still looked solid. He looked decent on the feet. I thought it was a draw. He was able to, I mean, he was taken down, but that's Khamzat Chimaev, and I think Khamzat Chimaev takes down Colby Covington with ease. That's what's interesting too. In a 5-rounder, Colby could somehow beat Khamzat Chimaev because Khamzat Chimaev's cardio sucks. That's what's stupid about this whole thing. But yeah, I would have to pick Khamzat Chimaev. He would get the back of Colby Covington, maybe subs him. Maybe he's the guy to finish Colby Covington. In a 3-rounder, I'm picking Khamzat Chimaev. In a 5-rounder, the fact that I have to consider Covington is wild. But yeah, Kamaru Usman probably finishes him at this point. Colby looks so slow. He looks so bad, so untechnical. And it just looks like there's a mental barrier in his head. And before that fight, going into the Leon Edwards fight, after seeing Covington have a pretty decent performance against Jorge Masvidal, I was thinking, look, he hasn't shown any signs of really regressing that much. I probably would pick him against Usman if he beat Leon Edwards. And now I'm just like, no, okay, Usman hasn't looked fantastic lately, but I don't think he's lost that much of a step. I think a lot of people are calling him more washed than he really is just because he has faced some very high-level opponents recently. Say what you want about Khamzat Chimaev, but Khamzat Chimaev is a really, really good fighter. He is so good. I mean, no one's going to be able to take down, regardless if it was Usman on one week's notice, there's no one in the division that's taking down Kamaru Usman and 10-8ing him in round 1. No one's doing it. When it comes to the feet, Usman found some very nice shots. And then in the third fight with Leon Edwards, I genuinely think Leon Edwards was super gassed in the second fight, also known as the first title fight. After round 1, you see Leon mouth breathing, really, really tired, and it made him very, very compromised on the feet and not allowing him to execute his game plan. And by the way, I picked Leon Edwards in both fights. So I felt like I had a decent read of him going into this Colby Covington fight, but Colby Covington literally had the worst game plan I have ever seen in a title. I don't even know how the fuck that was a title fight. I'm being entirely honest with you. I think Leon Edwards is good. I'm not going to be a Leon Edwards hater. I mean, I really don't like this welterweight division. I'm not a big fan of Usman, Leon, Bilal, Colby. Not even a massive fan of Shavkat. But hey, let's just get this division moving. Please, let's get some movement. Leon, you took no damage. Go out there, fight Bilal. I know you don't want to fight Bilal, but he's just going to stick there at the top. He's probably getting a title shot. If that's not the case, they're going to do what? Bilal versus Shavkat or Bilal versus Usman. Bilal's probably eventually going to somehow find his way to a title shot. And then when he gets to the title, he's going to fluke. And he's going to get a fluke win. Leon's going to break his leg, something like that. And Bilal Muhammad is going to become the welterweight GOAT somehow. It's just the way that the welterweight division is going to work out. I'm kidding. I think Leon does beat Bilal. I think that'll probably happen next, but Leon's probably going to argue with the UFC for quite some time. Why the hell am I fighting Bilal, another wrestler? I want to fight strikers. It's not going to end up happening. He'll probably beat Bilal by decision because he has the tools to. But Bilal's going to do much better against Leon than Colby did because he has different tools. He knows how to deal with the freaking leg kick, and he will switch stances. Which is why I think Bilal would beat Colby Covington because Leon Edwards switched his stance a lot, worked the leg kicks, but just overall, the switching of stances really made it hard for Colby Covington to time a takedown. And maybe that would have made a difference because Colby Covington just couldn't time a takedown in general. But I do think that is a solid tool out of Bilal Muhammad. He's got a solid jab. Fundamentally, he's pretty sound. He's got a nice body kick. He has enough tools to beat Colby Covington, and he just doesn't look like he's decayed that much physically. So I would go with Bilal Muhammad by unanimous decision. It would be pretty damn clear in my opinion. I think he's just quicker, and that's crazy to say because Bilal Muhammad really is not that quick. I've never been a massive believer in Bilal Muhammad other than the fact that he's somewhat durable. And he knows what he's doing on the feet. He's got a pretty high fight IQ. He's got an ability to take it down to the ground. But overall, it would be a striking fight. And I think Bilal Muhammad at this point in his career is the much better striker than Colby Covington. He'd probably win that 4 rounds to 1 very dominantly on the feet, very clearly. And then Colby Covington would go out there, raise his hands like he won the fight. And he'd call it a robbery again. So, hey, whatever. I'd say Bilal Muhammad. I'd be very confident in that prediction. I'd probably say 65% chance he beats Colby there. For Kamaru Usman, I'd probably say 65%. No, I'd say a little bit less, maybe. No, I'd probably say 65% chance as well. Because I think part of the reason why Usman looks washed is just because he's fighting better opponents. Like Khamzat Chimaev and Leon Edwards, in my opinion, aren't comparable to Jorge Masvidal, Gilbert Burns, and even Colby Covington. And that we're probably not used to seeing Kamaru Usman lose some of these top-level fights. So let's move on to the next fighter, who's ranked number 4. It's Gilbert Burns. Originally going to this fight, I thought Colby would have beaten Gilbert Burns because Gilbert Burns can get taken down. And Colby has pretty solid submission defense. And when it's on the ground, he would probably stay out of the submissions from Gilbert Burns. As Gilbert Burns isn't great at finding submissions. Like, I can't remember the last time he has a submission win. But I'm kind of at the point where it would be on the feet, and when it's on the feet, Gilbert Burns would land some solid shots and he would outdamage him, and he probably would be able to get it back up to the feet because he has some solid scrambles. And Colby sucks at holding people down. He would have to non-stop shoot takedowns against Gilbert Burns. And I think Colby Covington would be dumb enough to entertain the stand-up a little bit more than he should against Gilbert Burns and get outpointed. Once again, his coaches will just tell him that, yeah, I mean, you got to do a little bit more, son. I'm like, dude, I can't get over how annoying I am with this corner. But yeah, anyways. So Gilbert Burns, I would think, would probably win by decision. Colby's still going to be durable. I still think he has a pretty solid chin. He's got very solid chin recovery. Gilbert Burns could put him away. He obviously could submit him. He obviously could knock him out. But I think he just do enough damage to win. I can't talk right now. To win a decision. Moving on to Shavkat Rakhmonov. Oh, by the way, I'd say Gilbert Burns probably has like a 55% chance to win that fight. Still not super confident because he can get taken down. Yeah, I'll leave it there. 55% chance for Gilbert Burns. Next fight, Shavkat Rakhmonov. I'm going with Shavkat. I still don't believe in Shavkat Rakhmonov's offensive wrestling all that much. I understand that he had a tear in his foot when he fought Wonderboy Thompson, so that could have been a massive factor as to why he wasn't able to get Wonderboy down. And eventually he was able to, obviously, but he's had his takedown stuff from Carlston Harris and Jeff Neal pretty solidly. And when I watch this guy shoot for a takedown, I'm not like, holy shit, this is Khamzat Chimaev. It's really dominant. It's not... I mean, Kamaru Usman or, Colby Covington back in the day. I still look at his takedown shots, and I think they're a little bit suspect. And I do think Colby would be able to stuff him, and it would be a striking match on the feet. And Shavkat is the better striker. And I do think Colby Covington could potentially get down Shavkat Rakhmonov, but Shavkat Rakhmonov has shown some pretty solid takedown defense and some pretty solid balance in the past as well. I think when I look at this fight, Shavkat is bigger. He will be strong enough to stuff the takedowns. And when it's on the ground, he has the advantage. He will be able to scramble out. He'll be able to get back up to the feet, potentially reverse whatever Colby Covington has on top, because Colby Covington is not like one of these wet blanket guys. He's not going to be big enough to impose his will. He's the least physically imposing fighter in this entire division. All he has is cardio and wrestling, honestly. And Shavkat's going to beat him on the feet, probably hurt him, probably work his way to a submission. I could see him eventually finding the back of Colby Covington in a grappling exchange, landing some big shots, and eventually working him down to a submission. So I go Shavkat Rakhmonov by submission, probably like I'd probably say like a 65 to 70% chance to win that fight. Shavkat Rakhmonov is not a guy I believe in all that much, honestly. I don't want to call myself a Shavkat Rakhmonov hater, but I do question him. And I've been saying that these top guys in the welterweight division would really give Shavkat some problems, and I would pick them over Shavkat Rakhmonov. And the Wonderboy fight didn't really make me change my tone. I'm just looking at the top of the welterweight division now and realizing how bad it is. I really, really do not like this division, but I think this is a division that Shavkat Rakhmonov can succeed in. I think I would probably pick him over Gilbert Burns. I would definitely pick him over Colby Covington. Him versus Kamaru Usman is an interesting one. I would probably lean towards him over Kamaru Usman. I don't like believing the striking of many of these fighters. I would lean for him over Bilal Muhammad as of right now, which I will have a video coming out tomorrow about how I think Shavkat Rakhmonov matches up with the top of the welterweight division. I'm going to go back, watch some more film, make sure I get a solid reading of Shavkat Rakhmonov before I do so make sure to tune into that. But as of now, I will not be picking him against Leon Edwards. I'll have an official readout tomorrow, but yeah, against Colby Covington, I'd pick him pretty damn confidently. He probably will be able to stuff all the takedowns, hurt Colby on the feet, and if it hits the ground, he will find the submission. I love how dangerous he is, and he's just an overall very physically imposing fighter who has shown some pretty solid cardio. Moving on to the next fight, we have Wonderboy Thompson. I see a lot of people going with Wonderboy Thompson because he stuffed the takedowns from Shavkat Rakhmonov. But like I just previously said, I'm not super high on the wrestling offense from Shavkat Rakhmonov just yet. And that was also Shavkat with a broken foot, like I mentioned, so that could have had something to do with why he wasn't able to find the takedowns in the first place. Wonderboy has shown a hole in his takedown defense in the past against Bilal Muhammad, against Gilbert Burns, and other fights that I just don't want to go down a long list of. I do think Colby would be able to find the takedowns and win a decision. Wonderboy has solid cardio, so does Colby. Colby has the cardio advantage, but I do think this is one of those fights where there's no possible way Colby can think to entertain the stand-up against Wonderboy, because that's the only thing Wonderboy's really good at. I don't want to call him one-dimensional because he's very technical on the feet and he has his own ranges, he has his own tools on the feet that would really expose Colby Covington. And he could honestly knock out, hurt Colby Covington, whatever it might be, but I just don't think Wonderboy Thompson is physically imposing enough to do enough damage to really scare Colby Covington away from just shooting in like the nut hugger that he is. So, slight lean towards Colby Covington. I don't mind the Wonderboy pick. I just think, although he stuffed Shavkat Rakhmonov's takedowns, it doesn't mean he has fantastic takedown defense at this point. And Colby Covington, still at this point of his career, probably does have better takedown entries. If not, he is a much more annoying to deal with style when it comes to the offensive wrestling. So Colby Covington by decision is the pick in a 3 and a 5 rounder. Against Sean Brady, I'm starting to lean towards Sean Brady. I know Sean Brady got knocked out by Bilal Muhammad, but I'm starting to think Bilal Muhammad is actually a pretty decent fighter. I'm not starting to think. I've actually been on that wave. I thought Gilbert Burns would have beat him, but outside of that, I thought Bilal definitely could become a champion. He's not as bad as people will tell you. I've already been through that, but as of now, I viewed a 50-50 matchup, and I'm just going to lean toward the more physically imposing, less washed guy in Sean Brady, who looked pretty decent recently against Kelvin Gastelum. And although he is chinny, that should not be an issue against Colby Covington. But maybe Sean Brady makes it a point to get knocked out by the fighters with no power in their hands. This should be a striking fight, but if it hits the ground, I think... Actually, do you know what? I think Sean Brady could literally find the takedowns in Colby Covington, hold him down there, potentially find the submission. He's more physically dominant, more physically imposing, and on the feet, he has some power to deal with. Yeah, I'd go Sean Brady there. Probably 55% chance. Moving on to Vicente Luque. I don't know, 50-50 matchup. Luque can get taken down. He showed improvements in his wrestling recently. He is older as well. He is the much better striker, and he can find some very massive shots against Colby Covington. The problem with Vicente Luque that I don't like is that he's just not very rangy, and it's going to be one of those guys that he can close the range on very well. While he is very... I want to say I lean towards Vicente Luque. I'm just going to leave it at 50-50. That's one of those where I'd have to do a lot of film. Colby Covington can get him down, can hold him there. Vicente Luque can find the submissions. Oh, I might even pick Vicente Luque there. I'm going to leave it at 50-50. Sorry if I'm being a little bit confusing. But yeah, I think Vicente Luque is the better striker. He's probably got the better submissions, probably got the better ability to get it back up to the feet. But he will get taken down. I think that's one of those matches where Colby would do nothing but shoot takedowns. It would be forced, similarly to what I thought he would do in a matchup against Wonderboy Thompson, to just shoot takedowns nonstop. That's one of those fights where it's like, why even think to entertain the stand-up? Which is the same thing I thought with Leon Edwards. I don't understand that whatsoever. So I can't even trust them. I mean, fuck it. I'm leaning Vicente Luque as of now, but let me do a little bit more film research before I get an official prediction out on that. 50-50 matchup, lean towards Vicente because he's younger. I don't know if he's younger, but he doesn't look as bad as Colby Covington in there. I might be hating on Colby, but I just can't get over how bad he looked in there. Moving on to the next fighter, we have Ian Gary. I think this is the only other matchup they would look to make outside of the Wonderboy Thompson fight for Colby. And I think this is the matchup that eventually will happen. I've been thinking about this, and I'm like, well, if Ian Gary beats Jeff Neal, what are they going to do? How are they going to get him a title shot? How are they going to build his name? They're going to use Colby Covington. Colby Covington will like a big name fight, but honestly, I could see Colby Covington not wanting to take the fight. Not because he's scared of Ian Gary. He probably views Ian Gary as very, very beatable. But he probably just wouldn't want to deal with the backlash and the consequences of losing to Ian Gary after talking all that crap about his wife. So I think Ian Gary beats Colby Covington. I have to go with it. He's going to be improving rapidly. And we haven't seen him prepare fully for a grapple-heavy game plan like Colby Covington. But Ian Gary has shown an ability to just not stuff the takedowns, but he's shown very good balance and a very good ability to pop back up to the feet. Before I give an official prediction, I do want to rewatch his fights with Kenan Song, Gabe Green, and Darian Weeks. He was taken down once by Darian Weeks and Gabe Green, and then against Kenan Song, he was taken down twice. So I do want to rewatch that. I do think Colby Covington would be able to get him down a few times, but when it's on the feet, he will just easily outpoint Colby Covington on the feet, and they'll go with damage over control. If they're going to rob it anyway, they're going to go with the young, up-and-coming star. I don't think Ian Gary's finishing Colby Covington whatsoever. I don't think Ian Gary has very solid power, and that's why I think Colby Covington has a very good chance, but I'd lean Ian Gary probably like a 55% chance as of now. He's shown holes in his grappling, and Colby Covington can expose that, but Ian Gary, yeah, I mean, he probably knows. When you're fighting Colby Covington, you know the takedowns are coming. You can just have a very... what's the word? You can have a whole training camp designed to stuff the takedowns from Colby Covington. And when Colby Covington takes you down, you'll be able to get back up to your feet. And I don't trust Colby Covington to stick to the game plan of wanting to lay and pray, which he probably would go for, but I think he might entertain the stand-up a little bit. I don't know. I don't even know with Colby Covington anymore. So slight lean Ian Gary. He's the younger fighter that will be improving. And I'll do one last fighter in this video, which is Jack Della Maddalena. I'll go with Jack Della Maddalena, probably like a 60% chance to win that. I know he got taken down by Basil Hafez, something like that. But, I mean, he has some decent takedown defense. He showed it in the past. He's been able to stuff takedowns. And the main time where he ends up on the ground getting controlled is when he jumps guillotine like a fucking idiot. He did it multiple times against Basil Hafez, whatever the fuck it is. The only wrestler he's really ever faced. I understand that, and he was able to get taken down a couple times. But he has an ability to get back up to the feet. And when it's on the feet, he's dangerous. He's physically imposing, and he's going to be very hard for Covington to deal with, because he rips to the body a lot. And that's what I like about Jack Della Maddalena. I think he's going to go out there and beat Gilbert Burns. I think he stuffs the takedowns, and he won't be dumb enough to jump guillotine. I think he probably learned his lesson against Basil Hafez. But if he jumps guillotine against Colby Covington, that's probably the only way he loses that fight. I think for the most part, he'll stuff most of the takedowns from Colby Covington, find ways to get it back up to the feet. He has a pretty solid ability to scramble back up to the feet. Against Basilov, as we've seen it against, what's the freaking guy's name? I think he was on the Ultimate Fighter. He was cut from the UFC. I can't remember his name. Anyways, like, he has been able to get back up to his feet, and when it's on the feet, when he's facing a pure wrestler, he will have a game plan oriented around stuffing the takedowns and getting it back out in the open. When he fought Basilov, I think that was his second weight cut in 2 weeks. So in all fairness to him, that definitely was not the best version of him. I was pretty impressed by his performance against Kevin Holland. And then the reason why I think he beats Gilbert Burns is I think he's the better striker, and he will be able to stuff the takedowns from Gilbert Burns, who I don't think has the greatest takedown entries offensively. And not the greatest submission ability either. So when it's on the feet, I think Jack Della Maddalena will outpoint Gilbert Burns and Colby Covington. I would probably say 60% chance. So that's going to conclude this video. Look, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. I was really, really just shocked at how bad Colby Covington looked in there. I try to keep this video entertaining. I am just the biggest hater of Colby Covington now. He's one of my least favorite fighters. He went from one of my favorite to one of my least favorite. I'm cheering for basically anyone in this division over Colby. I can't deal with his antics anymore. They've just grown old. And yeah, I mean, fuck Colby Covington, if I'm being entirely honest. Donald Trump probably hates the guy too. So that's going to conclude this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. I should have some content coming out recently. I've been slacking lately. I've had finals, but I'm going to be back on the grind. We got a month of no fights, so I'm going to try and keep it entertaining for you guys. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.